Saying that our investigative reporter, Evan Sernoffsky, he's been digging into to Sam Cassidy. He joins us live once again this morning, or now this afternoon, as time flies here. Evan, what's the latest?
That's right, Mike. As you mentioned, authorities identified this gunman, the suspected gunman, as Sam James Cassidy. He's 57 years old, and he's an employee at that VTA facility where the shooting happened. We also learned that he lives at that address where authorities are now investigating a fire earlier, right around the same time of the shooting. That's 1178 Angmar. So as they're sort of piecing together what happened here, you know, we're starting to see this picture of maybe a fire was set and then this really horrific, tragic workplace shooting that unfolded. Mike?
And Evan, we heard from Jeff Rosen, the DA, that he confirmed that this Cassidy took his own life, that it wasn't law enforcement that shot and killed him earlier this morning. But nothing popping. I mean, I know you're just digging into him, but nothing popping on a criminal record. Wasn't on the radar before at any time, you know, from San Jose PD or other law enforcement agencies?
Right, Mike, that's what we're looking into right now. Obviously, in these cases, we start scouring the internet, scouring social media, trying to get a sense of who this person is. And Cassidy was kind of an enigma. He doesn't have a big social media presence. He didn't post any that we can see right away under his easily searchable name, any kind of screed before going on this alleged rampage. And then when it comes to his criminal record, at least in Santa Clara County, he's not very well known to law enforcement, which a lot of times in these workplace type shootings, I mean, you'll probably remember the 2017 shooting at the UPS facility in San Francisco. You have somebody who's a coworker, as you mentioned, our photographer spoke to one of the witnesses who described somebody who was a little off and then they snap, and before you know it, this horrific tragedy happened. It's not always somebody who is well known to law enforcement, who has an extensive criminal record. So these are all questions that I have, that you have, that we're going to be looking into in the next few minutes and hours.
You know, I'm curious, Evan, because you've covered, you know, crime here in the Bay Area for a long time, and you know, when you look at those two different crime scenes, right? You have the fire at the residential house or the property, and then at the light railway. They're just from its face value, there was a lot of planning that went into this, you know, maybe trying to destroy evidence. What do you read into that? And not just for Cassidy, but someone who goes to that length to maybe cover up something, to plan, and then execute this plan.
Right. And Mike, unfortunately, these kind of situations are not uncommon, increasingly common, and it fits the profile of someone who is wanting to cause a lot of damage and destruction. And obviously, now that we've learned from District Attorney Rosen that Mr. Cassidy killed himself after going on this rampage, it really sort of fits right into that mass shooter sort of profile that unfortunately, as I mentioned, we've seen time and again, and especially when it comes to these workplace shootings. So this is kind of a category that happens, unfortunately, all too often. We've seen it here in the Bay Area before too. So it just speaks to this person who wanted to cause a lot of damage and destruction before taking themselves out.
And Evan, it's Scasia. The attack at the San Bernardino, I believe, you know, county holiday party that happened a few years ago, notwithstanding, it does seem that usually these instances are carried out by one person. Are you aware that law enforcement is perhaps investigating the possibility, or have they ruled out the possibility that anyone else may have been directly involved in what happened today?
Right. I spoke to law enforcement, I spoke to federal authorities earlier this morning, and they said there's no threat to anybody right now. So they believe that this was a lone gunman, so to speak, and there isn't any lingering threat. As you mentioned, the San Bernardino shooting, that's kind of a different category of these mass shootings that we see. That was a terrorist attack, person who was, or two people who were radicalized and then carried out this horrific tragedy down there. Here, it's a little bit different. It's more like the, as I mentioned, UPS shooting from 2017, where you have workplace violence. You have somebody who witnesses have told us was a little bit off, and then eventually something snapped, unfortunately.
And we don't know. And again, it is very early, even though it seems like we've been covering this a long time for you. We don't know if there was any sort of reprimand from the boss. We don't know if there was perhaps, a romantic relationship rebuffed. We have no idea the inner workings of what may have been happening inside the VTA yard with workers, because workers are people, and we bring our people issues to work, right? We're professional, but it's all about, working and gelling with the people around you. Have you heard anything at all about any sort of conflict or upset or worry, be it personal or professional, that may have in any way, sparked what happened?
Right, Gassia, these are all really important questions that we're going to get to, which is going to speak to the motive. Sometimes that's a little ambiguous, and you have to wonder what would motivate anybody to do something like this, to take such horrific violence and take so many lives like this. So a motive is certainly something we're going to be looking into. Obviously, the weapons and the guns are a big question that's lingering right now. I've reached out to the ATF and other federal agencies to see, what kind of gun or guns did Mr. Cassidy allegedly use in this rampage.
And we've seen it. We've seen in other cases, Evan, where even though, let's say, person A carried out the shooting, carried out the attack, person Q might be responsible for selling the weapon to this person illegally, selling an illegal weapon, right? Having some sort of a hand in what happened, knowing or not, just because it appears the man who's been identified as the shooter here, Sam James Cassidy, is dead by his own hand. That doesn't mean there might not be some sort of prosecution of someone or something in this case.
Right, if you recall, I think it was the Gilroy Garlic Festival shooting, there was a whole lingering issue with how that gunman had procured all these weapons. So yeah, that's clearly something law enforcement is looking at as we speak, trying to find out what kind of guns were used, if he had any assistance. And as we know, California has some of the strictest gun laws in the nation, and the mayor, Sam Liccardo, mentioned that he wanted to do whatever he can to make sure a tragedy never happens again like this. So a lot of the questions that are still lingering are, was anybody involved with helping this guy secure firearms? Were these legal firearms? I mean, if Cassidy didn't have a extensive criminal record, he very well may have been able to purchase the gun that he used or guns that he used in this rampage legally. Gassia?
Right. But I know you've also reported, and this is, conjecture to the nth degree here, but you've also reported on ghost guns, essentially a gun that's kind of pieced together from other weapons, untraceable.
That's right. So in California, we have some of the strictest gun laws in the nation, as I mentioned. But people, even if they have a criminal record, can very easily obtain illegal firearms, and these are just the lower receiver of something like an AR-15 or even a Glock pistol, where the 80% of it is complete. They can drill a couple holes, buy the other parts, put the gun together. AR-15, same thing. There's also things like the Ghost Gunner, which is a machine that will make the lower receiver out of a piece of metal. You can also 3D print guns. So obtaining firearms, illegal or legal, is not a difficult thing here in California or frankly anywhere in the United States.
Well, certainly, as you mentioned, all eyes and ears will be on what the mayor of San Jose has to say. He